Her name echoed across the boardroom. Ms. Charlotte Bennet. Every head turned. Charlotte rose slowly. The scrape of her chair sounded louder than it should have. At the far end of the polished table sat the Corporate Conduct Review Panel. The HR Director, Margaret Ellis, flipped open a leather file. Beside her, Compliance Officer Daniel Ward adjusted his glasses. An external counsel from Brighton Legal sat quietly, pen poised. To Charlotte's right sat Adrian Volkov, European, impeccably dressed. Calm, he leaned back in his chair, as if this were a quarterly review. A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. Charlotte walked to the center seat. She did not rush. She did not look at him. Margaret cleared her throat. This hearing concerns allegations of repeated professional misconduct and hostile leadership conduct. Adrian exhaled through his nose. Strong language, he murmured. Daniel Ward glanced up. You'll have an opportunity to respond, Mr. Volkov. Charlotte folded her hands on the table, her fingers pressed together firmly. No tremor. Margaret continued. Ms. Bennet, you have submitted a formal complaint supported by documented evidence. Do you understand the seriousness of this proceeding? I do, Charlotte replied. Adrian tilted his head toward her. Charlotte, this is unnecessary. She finally looked at him. For you, she said quietly. The room stilled. If you're watching right now, tell me where you're tuning in from. Have you ever sat in a room where silence carried more weight than words? Margaret nodded. You may begin your statement. Charlotte drew in a measured breath. Before we go any further, tell me something. Where are you watching from right now? Have you ever sat in a room where something felt wrong, but no one spoke? That kind of silence stays with you. Write your experience in the comments. This did not start in that meeting, she said, and the clock on the wall ticked louder than anyone expected. The chair of the panel, Sir Malcolm Reeves, leaned forward. Ms. Bennet, he said evenly, for the record, state your position within the company. Senior strategy analyst, Charlotte replied, reporting directly to Mr. Adrian Volkov. Sir Malcolm nodded once. How long have you held this role? 18 months. Adrian adjusted his cufflinks. And during those 18 months, performance targets were exceeded. He added smoothly, let's maintain perspective. Margaret Ellis did not look at him. You will have time to speak, Mr. Volkov. Charlotte kept her gaze steady. Performance metrics are not the issue. Daniel Ward glanced at the file in front of him. Your complaint references repeated instances of public ridicule. Would you clarify? Adrian gave a soft laugh. Ridicule? That's exaggerated. Charlotte did not react to him. In weekly executive meetings, she began, my proposals were interrupted before completion. Comments were made about my limited grasp of commercial reality. On 3 occasions, my analysis was dismissed as naive in front of clients. Sir Malcolm's pen paused mid-note. Adrian leaned forward. Now, I challenged your assumptions. That's leadership. Challenging data is leadership, Charlotte replied. Mocking the presenter is not. A murmur shifted faintly across the table. Margaret spoke carefully. Do you recall a specific instance? Yes. Adrian's expression tightened for the first time. Charlotte continued, voice level. March 14th, client review session, Mr. Volkov said, and I quote, perhaps we should let someone more experienced explain this before we confuse the room. Silence followed. Daniel looked toward Adrian. Is that statement accurate? Adrian hesitated. It was a joke, he said. Light humor. Charlotte met his eyes. No one laughed. Sir Malcolm folded his hands. Miss Bennet, was that an isolated remark? Charlotte shook her head. No. Adrian's jaw tightened. We are discussing tone, not misconduct. Margaret Ellis intervened. We are discussing conduct that may violate leadership standards. Daniel Ward adjusted the documents in front of him. Ms. Bennet, your submission includes internal emails. Would you like to reference one? Charlotte nodded. April 3rd. Subject line. Revenue forecast adjustments. She did not look down at her notes. Mr. Volkov replied to the entire executive chain. He wrote, let's not overcomplicate matters. Some people mistake volume for value. Adrian leaned forward. That comment was not directed at you. Charlotte's voice remained steady. I was the only analyst copied on that thread. A quiet shift moved through the room. Sir Malcolm glanced at Adrian. Were you aware your comments were perceived as targeting Ms. Bennet? Adrian exhaled. Perception is subjective. Results are objective. Charlotte answered before the panel could. Professional respect is not subjective. Margaret lifted a printed page. There are additional instances documented here. Yes, Charlotte said. Interruptions during presentations. Private messages suggesting I simplify my tone. Being excluded from strategy calls, I prepared material for... Daniel looked at Adrian. Why was she excluded? Adrian hesitated. Strategic realignment. Charlotte's eyes did not waver. The client later requested clarification on the data I had prepared. Sir Malcolm made another note. The composure Adrian wore at the beginning began to thin. Margaret closed the folder gently. Ms. Bennet, how did these actions affect your ability to perform your role? Charlotte paused for the first time. They made it clear, she said softly, that my voice carried less weight than his amusement. The words settled heavily across the table. Sir Malcolm looked directly at her. Did you raise these concerns internally before filing the formal complaint? Yes, Charlotte answered, informally. Margaret's pen paused. With whom? With Mr. Volkov? Adrian straightened. We had a private conversation. She expressed sensitivity to feedback. Charlotte did not flinch. I asked for professional boundaries. Daniel Ward leaned forward. What was his response? Adrian spoke first. I told her leadership requires resilience. Charlotte's voice cut through evenly. You said, if you can't handle pressure, perhaps this level isn't for you. Adrian's gaze hardened. Context matters. Charlotte nodded slightly. It does. Sir Malcolm folded his hands. Miss Bennet, why file now? She inhaled slowly. Because the March 14th meeting was not the worst incident, she said. A shift passed through the panel. Margaret looked up. There is a more serious allegation referenced in your written submission. Charlotte's fingers pressed lightly against the edge of the table. Still steady. Yes, Adrian's confidence slipped a fraction. This is becoming disproportionate. Daniel's voice remained measured. Ms. Bennet, please clarify. Charlotte met each board member's eyes before speaking. In the presence of a senior client, Mr. Volkov stated that my promotion was diversity optics. The silence that followed felt deliberate. Sir Malcolm did not blink. Are you confirming that remark was made publicly? Yes, Adrian's voice lowered. That is not how it was phrased. Charlotte held his gaze. It is exactly how it was understood. The clock ticked again. Sir Malcolm closed his notebook. Proceed, he said quietly. Charlotte's next words would change everything. Adrian shifted in his chair. The ease he carried earlier had faded. That comment was taken out of context, he said. We were discussing client optics. Charlotte did not raise her voice. You said my promotion served optics, not performance. Sir Malcolm's expression hardened slightly. Mr. Volkov, you will refrain from interrupting. Margaret Ellis looked to Charlotte. Are you alleging discriminatory language tied to advancement? Yes. Daniel Ward glanced toward the external counsel, who made a quiet note. Adrian leaned forward, palms on the table. This is a distortion. I built this division. I decide who earns advancement, and I earned it, Charlotte replied. The room stilled again. Sir Malcolm spoke carefully. Ms. Bennet, before we proceed further, we require clarity. Are you stating that this was not an isolated misjudgment, but part of a broader pattern of conduct? Charlotte's eyes did not leave the panel. Yes, a breath passed through her chest, controlled. This began in my first week, she said. It continued through client sessions, executive meetings, written correspondence, and private conversations. Adrian's composure cracked. You never filed a complaint. I am filing it now. Margaret closed the primary folder. Miss Bennet, please summarize your position for the record. Charlotte folded her hands again. This did not start in that meeting, she said quietly. It started long before that meeting. The clock ticked. The panel exchanged looks.
The Q3 projections on the screen highlight the growth trajectory. Now, let's discuss how we implement the new strategy to exceed these targets.
Looks. And for the first time since her name was called, Adrian Volkov did not smile. Monday morning, her first executive briefing. Charlotte Bennett stood at the head of the long glass table, remote in hand. A fresh access badge still hung from her blazer. The company logo glowed on the screen behind her. Q3 projections indicate a 12% growth opportunity if we reallocate digital spend toward emerging markets, she began. The room listened. Adrian Volkov sat halfway down the table, reviewing a printed copy of her slides. He did not look up yet. Charlotte clicked to the next slide. Clean data, clear margins, direct analysis. As you'll see, the data suggests client retention increases when... Adrian lifted his hand without raising his eyes. Pause. She stopped. He leaned back slowly. Before we go further, can we simplify this? It's quite dense. A faint smile crossed his face. Charlotte kept her posture straight. I can walk through it, step by step. Adrian finally looked at her. Let's hope so. A few muted chuckles floated across the table. Charlotte clicked the slide again. The summary is on the right column. Adrian tilted his head. Yes, I saw that. I'm wondering if everyone else did. More laughter. Louder this time. Charlotte's shoulders tightened, almost imperceptibly. The presentation lasted 4 minutes. Charlotte kept her eyes on the screen. The right column outlines projected retention shifts across 3 sectors, she said calmly. If we adjust allocation by even 5%. Adrian leaned forward and tapped his pen against the table. 5% of what, exactly? He asked. Let's avoid floating numbers. I'm referring to current digital ad spend, she replied. He looked around the table. We all following. A senior manager nodded cautiously. Yes, the data seems clear. Adrian smiled at him, then turned back to Charlotte. Perhaps it would help if we stepped back. Big picture first. Then the details. That's what slide 1 covered, she said. The room went quiet for half a second. Adrian raised his brows. I'm aware. A woman at the far end shifted in her seat. Someone cleared his throat. Charlotte clicked back to slide 1 without comment. This chart summarizes total spend across regions, she said evenly. The proposed shift is calculated against the existing baseline. Adrian leaned back again. Better. Another soft laugh from the right side of the table. Charlotte felt the heat rise in her face, but did not show it. Her voice did not shake. Shall I continue? Adrian gestured lazily. By all means. No one challenged him. No one said her explanation had already been clear, and no one asked why the interruption was necessary. Charlotte advanced to the revenue forecast slide. Projected growth curves filled the screen. As you can see, reallocating spend to the Baltic and Central European sectors yields a higher return within 2 quarters, she said. The model is based on current engagement trends. Adrian glanced at the chart. Baltic? He repeated. That's ambitious for someone on week 1. A few heads lifted. It's based on existing performance data, Charlotte replied. The opportunity is already present. Adrian tilted his chair back slightly. Confidence is admirable. The tone was light. The message was not. One of the department leads exchanged a look with another colleague. Neither spoke. Charlotte moved to the next slide. This forecast compares conservative and aggressive scaling options. Adrian interrupted again. Let's not overwhelm ourselves, he said. Perhaps we should focus on what we already manage well before redesigning the map. Another ripple of laughter. Charlotte kept her hands steady on the remote. The data supports expansion, she said. I'm not proposing risk without evidence. Adrian folded his arms. I'm suggesting experience matters. The room grew quieter this time. Charlotte held his gaze for a brief second. I agree, she said. That's why the numbers are here. A few people shifted in their seats. But still, no one stepped in. Charlotte moved to her final slide. A clean summary. 3 bullet points. Clear projections. If we implement this in phases, she said, we reduce exposure while testing performance in real time. Adrian looked at the screen, then at her. Who would oversee this test? He asked. I would, Charlotte replied. Pause. Adrian's lips curved slightly. That's bold. It's within my role, she answered. He glanced around the table again, inviting a reaction. We're discussing market shifts across multiple regions, he said. This isn't a university case study. A louder laugh this time. Someone tapped a pen against a notebook. Charlotte felt the shift, not disagreeing with her numbers. Alignment with his tone. She kept her voice measured. The projections are validated against our internal analytics. Adrian leaned forward. Yes, but leadership requires more than analytics. His eyes held hers. Let someone more experienced explain it. The laughter came quickly, not explosive, not cruel, just easy. Charlotte allowed a small smile to appear. Of course, she said. She stepped slightly aside from the screen. No one objected. No one said she had already explained it clearly. And as Adrian rose from his seat to restate her own data in simpler terms, the first boundary had quietly been crossed. Adrian stood beside the screen, remote in hand. So, he began, what Charlotte is trying to say is that we shift budget from saturated regions into smaller, responsive markets. He clicked on the graph she had already explained. Instead of overwhelming everyone with variables, we keep it simple. A few nods followed. Charlotte remained standing near the end of the table, hands clasped lightly in front of her, expression composed. Adrian continued, paraphrasing her analysis almost word for word. We test modestly. We monitor performance. We expand if metrics hold. He lowered the remote. Clear enough? The room murmured agreement. Sir Malcolm was not there that day. No panel, no council, just senior managers, coffee cups, and routine banter. A department head finally spoke. That's a solid direction. Charlotte met his eyes briefly. "That's the proposal I outlined," she said. He hesitated. "Well, good teamwork." Adrian returned to his seat. "Welcome to the division, Charlotte," he said with a polite smile. "You'll learn how we present things here." The meeting moved on. No one questioned why her explanation required translation. No one asked why confidence became comedy. Charlotte gathered her papers at the end of the session. A junior analyst approached quietly. "For what it's worth," he whispered, "your numbers were strong." She nodded once. "Thank you." As she stepped into the corridor, the laughter still echoed faintly behind her. It sounded harmless, but it marked the beginning. Why did no one speak up? The first email arrived at 7:12 a.m. Charlotte had not yet taken off her coat when her inbox chimed. From Adrian Volkov, subject. Forecast revisions. She opened it. "Let's avoid turning this into a thesis. Keep it concise. Some of us have meetings to attend. No greeting, no signature." She stared at the screen for a second longer than necessary. The forecast attached was 2 pages. Concise. Another email followed minutes later. This one was copied to 3 senior managers. Revised projections attached. Simplified for clarity. Her own document sat beneath his, forwarded without comment. Charlotte reread the thread carefully. He had not corrected her numbers. He had rewritten her summary in shorter sentences. She typed a response, then deleted it. Instead, she opened the company policy portal in another tab. Code of conduct, leadership standards, respect in communication, clear language, professional tone, no humiliation. She closed the tab. This was minor, she told herself. Technical preference. But when she scrolled through her inbox, she noticed something else. Every directive from him arrived copied to others. Every correction was public. She leaned back in her chair. Across the open office floor, Adrian laughed at something on his screen. Charlotte looked back at the email. She clicked Save as a new folder opened in her documents. She hesitated, then renamed it Work Notes. The file dropped inside. At the hearing, she would say 1 sentence. Every moment had a date. The team chat had once been practical. Deadlines, client updates, meeting reminders. By midweek, the tone shifted. Adrian posted a screenshot of a spreadsheet Charlotte had formatted. "Data looks fine," he wrote. "Font size suggests we're submitting to a primary school." A laughing emoji followed. 2 managers responded with quick reactions. Another added, "Bigger numbers, bigger impact." Charlotte read it from her desk. Her formatting had followed brand guidelines. She typed, "Happy to adjust the font, if preferred." Adrian replied instantly, "No need, we'll survive." More reactions, more icons. The thread moved on. Later that afternoon, another message appeared. Reminder, keep analysis lean. "We're not writing novels." Charlotte stared at the screen. Her report that morning had 11 slides. Within the standard range, a junior analyst messaged her privately. "He's joking," he wrote. "Don't take it personally." She closed the chat without responding. Across the office, Adrian leaned back in his chair, relaxed, confident. Conversation flowed around him easily. Charlotte reopened the thread and took a screenshot. She did not annotate it. She did not comment publicly. She saved the image in the same folder as the email. Work notes. The pattern felt small, individually harmless, but repetition has weight. She noticed something else. When other analysts presented lengthy reports, no jokes appeared. No commentary about novels. Only her. Charlotte minimized the window and turned back to her work. Her posture remained straight, her jaw set slightly firmer than before. The calendar invitation arrived without warning. Subject: strategic alignment. Executive only. Charlotte scanned the attendee list. Adrian Volkov, Finance Director. Operations Lead. External Consultant. Her name was missing. She frowned. The meeting topic was directly tied to the Baltic expansion proposal she had developed. She walked to Adrian's office door and knocked lightly. "Come in," he said without looking up. Charlotte stepped inside. "I noticed the strategic alignment meeting this afternoon. It relates to the regional shift model." "Yes," Adrian replied, still reading his screen. "I wasn't included." He finally glanced at her. "Is a senior discussion. My projections form the basis of the discussion," she said evenly. "And they're appreciated," he answered. "We'll brief you afterward." Charlotte held her ground. "It would be efficient if I were present to answer questions." Adrian smiled faintly. "Efficiency isn't the only factor. Optics matter." The word lingered. "Optics?" she repeated. He stood, straightening his jacket. "We don't want to overwhelm clients with too many voices. Let's keep representation streamlined." Charlotte understood. He meant her, not her work. "Her, I can handle direct questions," she said. "I'm sure you believe that," Adrian replied calmly. The meeting proceeded without her. She watched through the glass wall as they discussed her slides. At one point, Adrian gestured toward a chart she had built. He spoke confidently. The external consultant nodded. Charlotte returned to her desk. Another screenshot. Another saved email thread. She added the meeting invite to her folder. Work notes. The exclusion was quiet, but intentional. The office lights dimmed automatically at 8:30 p.m. Most desks were empty. Charlotte remained seated, reviewing quarterly adjustments alone. Her screen reflected faintly in the darkened window. A new email notification appeared. From Adrian Volkov, subject. Client feedback. She opened it. Let's avoid overcomplicating analysis moving forward. Clarity improves credibility. Copied, Finance Director. Operations lead. No mention of the client's actual feedback, which had praised the depth of her projections. Charlotte searched her inbox. She found the client's direct reply from earlier that afternoon. Impressed by the analytical detail. Looking forward to further collaboration, she read both emails side by side. The contrast was sharp. Her phone buzzed. A message from the junior analyst. He removed you from tomorrow's follow-up call. Charlotte closed her eyes briefly. This was no longer humor, no longer tone. This was positioning. She opened the company intranet again. Internal reporting channel. Anonymous option available. Formal submission. Required documentation. Her cursor hovered over the link. She thought about the boardroom, about Sir Malcolm's steady voice, about the question, why now? Charlotte minimized the page. Instead, she opened her document folder. She created a new subfolder.
If we look at these graphs, the correlation between our localized marketing efforts and the increased market penetration in the Baltics is clear.
Subfolder inside work notes. She typed carefully. Evidence. She moved the saved emails inside. Added the screenshots. Attached the meeting invitation. Her reflection in the dark screen looked different now. Less uncertain. More deliberate. Every moment had a date, and she was beginning to understand the pattern. The conference room overlooking the Thames was reserved weeks in advance. Nord Tech Industries, one of the company's largest European clients. Charlotte adjusted the final slide on the screen as the clients entered. 3 executives, 1 legal advisor, 1 regional director. Adrian Volkov greeted them first. "Welcome," he said smoothly. "We're looking forward to refining the expansion strategy." Charlotte took her place near the screen. Sir Malcolm was not present. This was purely operational. High stakes, visible revenue impact. The regional director, Lars Henriksen, folded his arms as he sat. "Let's begin," he said. Charlotte clicked to the opening slide. Today's presentation outlines projected returns tied to phased expansion into emerging Baltic markets, she began. Her tone was controlled, precise. The room listened. She moved through the overview confidently. Projected retention growth stands at 12% under conservative modeling. Adrian watched from his seat. Expression unreadable. Charlotte advanced to the revenue sensitivity slide. This chart illustrates cost distribution relative to conversion rates. Adrian shifted slightly. "Pause," he said. Charlotte stopped. The clients looked from him to her. Adrian rose from his chair. "Perhaps we simplify before we lose the room." Silence pressed lightly against the glass walls. Charlotte held the remote steadily. "I'm happy to clarify any section," she said. Adrian stepped closer to the screen. "Yes," he replied. "Let's clarify." The clients exchanged brief glances. The atmosphere tightened. This was not a team meeting. This was external. Revenue sat on the table. Adrian stood beside the screen, studying the chart. "These projections," he said lightly. Assume aggressive adoption in markets that are still stabilizing. Charlotte answered calmly. The model includes both aggressive and conservative scenarios. This slide reflects the midpoint. Lars Henriksen leaned forward slightly. We were aware of that from the briefing document. Adrian smiled at him. Of course. I'm simply ensuring clarity. He pointed at the screen. Sometimes complex visuals can be overwhelming. Charlotte kept her posture straight. The detail supports informed decisions. Adrian tilted his head. Yes, but not everyone enjoys academic depth. The comment hung in the air. One of the Nordtech executives shifted in his seat. Charlotte felt the shift immediately. Not confusion, discomfort. She stepped forward slightly. The slide compares 3 adoption curves, she said. If we focus on the lower line here, you'll see a break-even point within 8 months. Adrian raised a brow. 8 months. If all goes perfectly. Charlotte met his gaze. 8 months under conservative assumptions. The room grew quieter. Lars folded his arms more tightly. Adrian chuckled softly. Well, he said, turning to the clients, that's optimism for you. No one laughed. The glass walls reflected still faces. Charlotte did not look away. Charlotte stepped slightly closer to the screen. If we review the comparative risk analysis, she said, clicking forward, I'll see the sensitivity adjustments already account for market volatility. The next slide appeared. 3 columns. Clear percentages. Scenario notes beneath each. Adrian glanced at it and gave a small shrug. Let's not bury the headline, he said. The question is simple. Is this realistic? It is supported, Charlotte replied. He turned toward the clients. Charlotte joined us recently, he said with a polite smile. She brings strong academic rigor. The word academic landed sharply. Lars' expression changed. Charlotte felt it. Adrian continued. We temper that with practical experience. He gestured toward himself lightly. Charlotte did not move. My analysis is based on your internal engagement metrics from the last 2 quarters, she said, addressing the clients directly. The opportunity already exists in your data. One of the Nordtech executives leaned forward. That aligns with what our team observed, he said. Adrian's smile tightened for a fraction of a second. Of course, he replied. We simply aim to avoid unnecessary enthusiasm. Charlotte's voice remained level. Enthusiasm is not part of the model. A brief silence followed. The clients were no longer amused. They were watching. Adrian sensed it. He returned to his seat. Continue, he said. Charlotte did. Her tone steady, her pace controlled. But something had shifted. The mockery was no longer private. It had crossed the table. Charlotte moved to the final slide. Implementation would occur in 3 phases, she said. Pilot launch, performance audit, controlled scale. Her voice did not waver. Lars Henriksen leaned back in his chair, studying the numbers. Adrian folded his arms. "And if adoption stalls?" he asked. Charlotte answered without hesitation. "We revert to baseline allocation. No structural risk to core markets." Lars nodded slowly. "That is what we required," he said. Adrian turned toward him. "You see? Managed expectations." Charlotte felt the edge in that remark. She faced the clients directly. "Our team's goal is to provide you with clear options. This is one supported path. If you prefer a phased trial under stricter limits, we can adjust accordingly." Her composure was firm, direct, no apology, no retreat. The Nord Tech legal advisor spoke for the first time. "We appreciate the depth of preparation," she said. The acknowledgement landed cleanly. Adrian's expression tightened. The meeting concluded without further interruption. As the clients gathered their materials, Lars paused beside Charlotte. "Your projections were thorough," he said quietly. Clarity was not the issue. Charlotte inclined her head. "Thank you." After the clients exited, the room remained still. Adrian closed his laptop slowly. "You handled that adequately," he said. "Adequately." Charlotte met his eyes. "I handled it professionally." He gave a short nod. The next morning, an email arrived. From Lars Henriksen, subject: "Follow up. We would like to address concerns regarding the leadership tone observed during the session." Charlotte read the line twice. This was no longer internal. This documented. Charlotte did not go home immediately that evening. She remained at her desk long after the floor emptied. The Nord Tech email sat open on her screen. "We would like to address concerns regarding the leadership tone observed during the session." Leadership tone. Professional language for public humiliation. She closed her eyes and replayed the meeting. Adrian stepped beside her, slide. Academic rigor, temper, enthusiasm. Adequately, she replayed earlier moments, too. The first laugh, the email threads, the meeting she was excluded from, every interruption, every copied correction. Her jaw tightened. Across the glass wall, the city lights reflected faintly in the darkened windows. She opened the evidence folder. Emails, screenshots, calendar invites, each file named by date, each moment preserved. Her phone buzzed. A message from Oliver Grant, her former university supervisor. Now a senior partner at another firm. "You sounded tense earlier," he had written hours before. "Call if you need perspective." She picked up the phone. "Oliver," she said quietly, when he answered. "Charlotte, what happened?" She explained carefully, not emotionally, fact by fact. He listened without interruption. When she finished, he asked one question. "Do you believe this will stop on its own?" She looked at the city skyline. "No." He was silent for a moment. "Then the question isn't whether you report it. he said. It's whether you are prepared for the consequences of reporting it. Retaliation, isolation, being labeled difficult. Charlotte exhaled slowly. I don't want a war, she said. Then don't frame it as one, Oliver replied. Frame it as a standard. She ended the call and looked back at the screen. The internal reporting channel tab remained open from days ago. She had minimized it. She had waited. She had hoped. The Nord Tech email removed hope. This was no longer private. This was a documented risk for the company, for her. If you're watching this moment, ask yourself something honestly. Would you stay silent to protect your position? Or would you step forward and risk losing it? Charlotte moved the cursor toward the reporting link. It hovered there, unclicked. Charlotte opened the internal reporting channel fully. The screen shifted to a formal portal. Submit concern. Anonymous option available. Formal complaint requires supporting documentation. She selected formal complaint. A new page appeared. Name, department, reporting manager. She typed carefully. Charlotte Bennett, strategy, division, reporting manager. Adrian Volkov. Her hands did not tremble. The next section required a summary of events. She paused. Where do you begin when the pattern stretches back months? She typed the first line. Repeated public ridicule and exclusion impacting professional standing. She deleted the ridicule, replaced it with documented hostile conduct, clear, measured, factual. She attached the Nord Tech email first, then the March 14th meeting reference, then the copied email threads, each file uploaded with a small progress bar. Her phone buzzed again. Oliver, have you done it? He asked. Not yet. Are you hesitating? Because you doubt the facts? He asked. No? Then you're hesitating. Because you understand the power dynamic. Charlotte said nothing. Oliver's voice softened. Charlotte, the longer you tolerate it, the more it becomes normal. Not for him. For you, she looked at the screen. Retaliation policy link displayed at the bottom of the form. No employee shall face adverse action for filing a good faith complaint. Policy language. Enforceable. In theory, she scrolled further down. There was a checkbox. I confirm the information provided is accurate to the best of my knowledge. She read it twice. She was not angry. She was certain. I can't undo this. Once I submit, she said quietly. You shouldn't want to, Oliver replied. She ended the call. Her cursor moved to the checkbox. Clicked. One final section remained. Would you like compliance notified in addition to HR? She selected yes. No half measures? The final section required narrative detail. Charlotte inhaled slowly and began typing. On March 14th, during a Nord Tech client session, Mr. Volkov stated my promotion served diversity optics. This statement was made in the presence of external stakeholders. She paused, added the date, added the time, added the attendee list. Her wording stayed precise. No adjectives, no speculation. She referenced prior incidents. April 3rd. Email copied to executive team implying incompetence. May 12th. Exclusion from strategic meeting tied to proposal I authored. Each entry aligned with the documents attached. Every moment had a date. Her mind replayed Adrian's voice in that conference room. Academic rigor. Optics. Adequately. She typed one final line. The conduct described above has affected my professional standing with both internal colleagues and external clients. Her finger hovered over the submit button. The office around her was nearly dark now. The cleaning staff moved quietly down the corridor. She thought about the possibility of being labeled difficult, projects being reassigned, of silence in meetings growing heavier. She also thought about Nordtech's legal advisor, about the pause that followed his comment. This was no longer personal discomfort. It was corporate liability. Her pulse quickened slightly. This was the moment. There would be no retrieving it, no quiet resolution. She pressed submit. The screen shifted instantly. Complaint successfully filed. Case number HR 48217 CB. She stared at the reference number. It felt clinical, final. Her email inbox chimed seconds later. From HR department subject. Acknowledgement of formal complaint. We confirm receipt of your submission. An investigation will commence within 5 business days. Charlotte exhaled. It was done. Charlotte did not leave immediately after submitting the complaint. She sat in the quiet office, staring at the acknowledgement email. Case number HR 48217 CB. 5 business days. 5 days where nothing would appear different. 5 days where Adrian would continue as usual. Her mind moved ahead of the process. What if he found out tomorrow? What if he reassigned her projects? What if colleagues distanced themselves? The retaliation policy had promised protection. Policy language is calm. Reality is not always. Her phone vibrated again. This time, it was not Oliver. It was Adrian, still at the office. The message read. She stared at the screen. Yes, she replied. Good. We need to review the Baltic follow-up tomorrow. 8 a.m. No change in tone. No hint of awareness. Charlotte typed back. Understood. She locked her computer and stood. As she walked toward the lift, she replayed the last months again. The first laugh, the copied emails, the exclusion, the Nordtech remark, the way no one spoke up. If you were in her place right now, would you prepare for conflict or prepare for truth? The lift doors opened. Her reflection in the mirrored wall looked steadier than she felt. This was no longer about pride. It was about standard. She stepped inside and pressed the ground floor. The doors closed quietly. The next morning, nothing looked different. The reception desk greeted her as usual. Colleagues walked past, with coffee in hand. The rhythm of the office remained intact. At 8 a.m., Charlotte entered the Baltic Review meeting. Adrian was already seated. "Morning," he said evenly. "Good morning." He projected the Nord Tech feedback on the screen. "We'll refine the tone moving forward," he said. "No need for over-analysis." Charlotte listened without interruption. He assigned follow-up tasks. He did not look at her differently. Not yet. Midway through the meeting, Margaret Ellis appeared briefly at the doorway. Her eyes scanned the room before settling on Charlotte for a fraction of a second. A subtle acknowledgement. Then she left. Adrian continued speaking. "Clarity, precision, efficiency," he said. "That's what clients value." Charlotte noted the irony silently. By noon, her inbox chimed again. From HR Department Subject, Case HR, 48,000.
This section confirms full compliance with the latest regulatory updates. Please review the audit trail and sign the acknowledgement.
48,217 CB. Next steps. An external compliance advisor will participate in the review. You will be contacted to schedule an initial interview. External, formal, structured. This was no quiet mediation. Charlotte closed the email and folded her hands on the desk. There would be interviews, documentation review, witness accounts. Adrian's confidence would meet procedure. Her pulse steadied. The decision had moved beyond her. The process now belonged to the company. Case HR 48,217 CB. It existed. It could not be withdrawn. Let me ask you honestly, if you were in her position, would you stay quiet to protect your career? Or would you report it and risk everything? Don't answer lightly. Tell me in the comments what you would do. The first interview notice went out on a Tuesday morning. Subject: confidential compliance review. Charlotte saw the email circulate across the division. Not to everyone. Select names. Closed door meetings scheduled in 30-minute blocks. By noon, Margaret Ellis and an external compliance advisor, Helena Strauss, occupied conference room B. The glass panels were covered. Inside, folders lay stacked neatly. Charlotte was called first. Helena introduced herself formally. Independent review. I report findings directly to the board. Daniel Ward sat beside her, silent, documenting. Please restate the sequence of events, Helena said. Charlotte did, fact by fact. Dates, times, context. Helena asked precise questions. Were witnesses present during the Nord Tech remark? Yes. Names? Charlotte listed them. Were previous concerns raised verbally? Yes. With whom? Mr. Volkov. Directly. Helena made a note. We will conduct witness interviews and review electronic correspondence, she said. You are protected under a non-retaliation policy. Charlotte nodded. The door opened. She stepped into the corridor. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Whispers resumed once she walked past. Inside conference room B, the next employee was called. The machinery had begun moving. Quietly, deliberately, across the floor, Adrian remained in his office, watching. By midweek, the interviews extended beyond the strategy team. Finance, operations, client relations. Helena Strauss maintained a measured tone with each employee. Were you present on March 14th during the Nord Tech presentation? Yes, one manager replied. Did you hear the statement regarding promotion optics? Pause. I don't recall exact wording, he said. It was tense, but meetings can be. Helena wrote carefully. Did you perceive the comment as undermining? I perceived it as direct, not hostile, not inappropriate, direct. Another interview followed. Were there instances of public correction? Helena asked. Mr. Volkov is demanding, a senior analyst said. But that's leadership. Daniel Ward glanced briefly at Helena. Some denied noticing anything unusual. Some described humor. Some claimed memory gaps. Outside the room, whispers circulated. She filed a complaint against him. That's risky. Adrian maintained routine. He held team check-ins, as usual. He offered quick praise to others. He avoided addressing Charlotte directly in meetings, though his tone remained composed. Charlotte observed the shift. Colleagues who once lingered near her desk now kept conversations brief. Not hostility, distance. She reviewed project files quietly, aware that perception now carried weight. Every interview was logged. Every statement transcribed. Helena requested access to archived emails. IT compliance began a formal audit. Internal servers scanned correspondence tied to specific dates. The investigation was no longer conversational. It was procedural, and the procedure leaves records. On Thursday afternoon, Helena requested access to the executive email archive. IT compliance joined her in conference room B. A large monitor displayed filtered search results. Sender, Adrian Volkov. Recipient, executive team. Keyword filters, performance, clarity, presentation. Helena reviewed threads carefully. Expand this chain, she instructed. Daniel clicked. The April 3rd email appeared. Let's avoid turning this into a thesis. Copied to multiple senior managers. Helena compared timestamps. Was there any corrective feedback attached? She asked. Daniel shook his head. No data correction. Only tone commentary. Helena made a note. Next thread. Internal team chat logs displayed on screen. A screenshot Charlotte had submitted appeared in the archive. Font size suggests we're submitting to a primary school. Helena zoomed in. Who reacted? Daniel scrolled. 3 senior managers. 2 laughing reactions. Helena's pen paused. Has the company issued prior guidance on public communication tone? She asked. Yes, Daniel replied. Code of Conduct, Section 4. Professional respect. Helena requested the document. It appeared side by side with the email thread. The language was clear. No employee shall be subjected to ridicule or public belittlement. Silence filled the room. Outside, Adrian walked past conference room B. The covered glass prevented him from seeing inside. But he noticed the frequency of meetings, the closed doors, the hushed voices. He stopped briefly at Daniel's desk later that afternoon. "How extensive is this review?" he asked casually. Daniel met his gaze evenly. "Standard procedure." Adrian smiled lightly. "Of course." But when he returned to his office, he closed the door, and for the first time in months, he reread his own emails. Friday morning, Helena requested one final interview. Ethan Clark, junior analyst, the same analyst who had whispered to Charlotte after her first presentation. He entered conference room B with visible hesitation. Helena offered a measured smile. "Mr. Clark, this discussion is confidential. You are protected under company policy." Ethan nodded, but kept his hands clasped tightly. "Were you present during the March 14th Nord Tech meeting?" Helena asked. "Yes. Do you recall a statement regarding Ms. Bennett's promotion?" He swallowed. "Yes. Please describe it in your own words." Ethan looked down briefly before answering. "Mr. Volkov said her promotion was about optics." Helena did not interrupt. "He said it in front of the client," Ethan continued. "It wasn't framed as a joke." Daniel wrote carefully. "Did you perceive the comment as undermining?" Helena asked. "Yes," Ethan said. "The client looked uncomfortable." "Why did you not raise this earlier?" Helena asked. Ethan hesitated. "He's the division head." The answer carried weight. Helena nodded slowly. "Were there other instances of public correction or ridicule?" "Yes," Ethan said, more firmly now. "In team meetings, in chat threads. Would you be willing to sign a written statement confirming this account?" Helena asked. A long pause followed. Ethan glanced at the door, then back at Helena. Back at Helena. "Yes?" Daniel slid a printed summary across the table. Ethan read it carefully, then signed. The pen made a soft sound against the paper. Outside, Adrian led a team briefing. His tone remained polished, his smile measured, but he noticed something subtle. Fewer people laughed. The applause began before Adrian reached the stage. Quarterly Leadership Summit. Senior executives gathered beneath soft lighting, glasses of champagne resting on high tables. Sir Malcolm Reeves stood at the podium. "This quarter's performance recognition goes to a leader who expanded client acquisition across 3 regions," he announced. Adrian Volkov. The room clapped. Adrian adjusted his jacket and walked forward with measured confidence. Charlotte watched from the back of the hall. Her name was not on the program, nor should it have been. Sir Malcolm extended his hand. "Well done," he said. "Thank you," Adrian replied, smoothly. A plaque changed hands. A camera flashed. For a brief second, Adrian's smile filled the projection screen behind him. Freeze frame, applause. He spoke briefly. Leadership, he said, is about clarity and resilience. The audience nodded. Charlotte's gaze remained steady. Across town, in Helena Strauss's office, the compliance summary grew thicker. Witness transcripts, stacked neatly. Email audits printed and tabbed. Client correspondence attached. A section labeled Managerial Conduct Review appeared at the top of the draft report. Helena underlined one sentence. Pattern of public undermining corroborated by multiple accounts. Back at the summit, Adrian stepped off the stage to more handshakes. Public image intact. Professional admiration visible. Charlotte observed the contrast. The boardroom had not yet entered the celebration, but it would. 2 days after the summit, Helena Strauss presented preliminary findings to the Executive Governance Committee. Sir Malcolm sat at the head of the long oak table. Margaret Ellis and Daniel Ward joined via secure call. Helena placed the report in front of them. This review was initiated following a formal complaint and subsequent client correspondence. She began. Sir Malcolm adjusted his glasses. Summary? He asked. Documented instances of public undermining, Helena replied. Corroborated by written communication and signed witness statements. Margaret added, Client Nord Tech expressed concern regarding leadership tone. Sir Malcolm tapped his pen once against the table. Is there evidence of retaliatory conduct? Not yet, Helena said. However, exclusion from key meetings was confirmed. Sir Malcolm leaned back. Performance metrics strong, Helena answered. Revenue growth consistent. A silence followed. This was the tension. Results versus conduct. Sir Malcolm spoke carefully. This company does not excuse misconduct on the basis of performance. Helena nodded. The code of conduct is clear. Back in his office, Adrian received a calendar invitation. Subject, governance review, attendance required. He opened it. Attendees, Sir Malcolm Reeves, Helena Strauss, Margaret Ellis, Daniel Ward. Duration, 90 minutes. No agenda attached. Adrian stared at the screen for several seconds. He closed the window and stood. In the corridor, colleagues greeted him with polite nods. His award still sat prominently on the shelf behind his desk. Public confidence remained. Private questions had begun. Adrian entered the governance review meeting with controlled composure. Sir Malcolm gestured toward the chair opposite him. Mr. Volkov, he said evenly, we are reviewing concerns tied to managerial conduct. Adrian folded his hands calmly. I assume this relates to Charlotte Bennett. It relates to documented behavior, Helena corrected. A folder lay open in front of Sir Malcolm. Several witnesses have confirmed remarks made during the Nord Tech presentation, he continued, including reference to promotion optics. Adrian inhaled slowly. That comment has been misinterpreted, he said. It was a discussion about external perception, not internal merit. Helena slid a printed transcript across the table. Mr. Clark signed this statement yesterday. Adrian read quickly. His jaw tightened. Junior staff often misunderstand executive context, he said. Pressure environments require blunt clarity. Sir Malcolm's gaze did not shift. Clarity does not equate to public undermining. Adrian leaned back slightly. With respect, performance outcomes speak for themselves. Revenue growth is measurable. Helena responded without emotion. Conduct standards are measurable as well. Margaret's voice joined through the speaker. The client has requested reassurance regarding leadership professionalism. That landed. Client reassurance meant reputational risk. Adrian adjusted his cufflink again. I can address tone concerns directly, he said. There is no need to escalate this into formal action. Sir Malcolm closed the folder gently. That determination will not be yours to make. For the first time, Adrian did not immediately respond. The meeting ended without resolution. Adrian walked back to his office with the same measured pace he had always carried. Colleagues greeted him as usual. A junior associate congratulated him again on the award. Impressive speech, she said. Thank you, Adrian replied. His tone remained smooth. Inside his office, he closed the door and stood still for a moment. On his desk sat the plaque from the summit. Performance Leader of the Quarter. He picked it up, turned it slightly, then set it back down. A soft knock interrupted him. Margaret Ellis entered, envelope in hand. This is formal notice, she said. He accepted it without expression. Board involvement? He asked. Yes. He opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a printed letter. Pursuant to Section 9 of the Governance Charter, a formal conduct review hearing will be scheduled. Date, time, attendance is mandatory. Adrian read the date twice. 3 weeks from now. He looked up at Margaret. This is disproportionate. It is procedural, she replied. Based on perception, based on documentation. Margaret paused before leaving. You are entitled to provide a written response prior to the hearing. When the door closed, Adrian remained standing. Through the glass wall, he could see Charlotte at her desk, focused on her screen. No visible reaction, no visible triumph, just work. He returned to his chair and opened his calendar. He selected the hearing date, circled it in red. The room felt quieter than before. The award on his shelf no longer held the same weight. The board had stepped in. The image and the record were no longer aligned. The formal hearing room felt colder than the earlier review meetings. Long table. The projector is mounted overhead. External legal counsel seated beside Helena Strauss. Sir Malcolm Reeves opened the session. This proceeding concerns managerial conduct under Section 4 of the Code of Professional Standards. Charlotte sat upright. Adrian sat across from her. No audience, no applause, only record. Helena stood first. We will begin with documented correspondence. The projector flickered on. Charlotte's April 3rd email appeared on the screen. Below it, Adrian's reply. Let's avoid turning this into a thesis. Copied to senior management. Helena addressed the room. Mr. Volkov, was this message intended as corrective guidance? Yes, Adrian replied. Efficiency matters. Helena clicked forward. Another thread appeared. Team chat log. Font size suggests we're submitting to a primary school. The words hovered large on the wall. Sir Malcolm's pen paused. Helena asked calmly, Do you dispute authorship? No, Adrian said. It was humor. Was it necessary? Helena asked. Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. In fast-moving teams, brevity is required. Helena turned toward the board. Witness statements indicate the tone created discomfort. Charlotte remained silent. The projector light reflected against the glass table. Evidence was no longer abstract. It was visible, typed, time-stamped, irrefutable in existence. Helena continued. These communications were reviewed in sequence. She clicked again. The folder header appeared on screen. Evidence, Charlotte Bennett. Helena dimmed the lights slightly. Next, we will address external correspondence, she said. A new document appeared on the screen. From Lars Henriksen, Nord Tech Industries. Subject, follow-up. Helena read aloud. We would like to address concerns regarding the leadership tone observed during the session. The room remained still. Sir Malcolm looked toward Adrian. Were you aware the client expressed concern? I was aware they requested clarification, Adrian replied. Tone can be subjective. Helena clicked to the next page. A second paragraph highlighted. The remark regarding promotion optics created discomfort and raised questions about internal equity. Charlotte's breathing remained steady. Adrian shifted in his chair. That interpretation exaggerates the context, he said. Helena responded evenly. Nortech's legal advisor was present during the session. She gestured toward the printed statement attached. Her account aligns with Mr. Clark's signed testimony. Daniel Ward placed a second document on the table in front of the board. Signed witness statement. Ethan Clark. Sir Malcolm read silently. He did not look up immediately. Adrian's voice lowered slightly. Junior employees can misread the executive tone. Helena met his gaze. External counsel does not. The weight of that sentence settled quietly. Helena continued. The investigation confirms consistency between internal documentation and external feedback. The board members exchanged brief glances. Charlotte did not react outwardly. The evidence now extended beyond internal perception. It touched client confidence, revenue, reputation. Helena adjusted the remote in her hand. There is one final item to review. The lights dimmed further, the projector brightened. Every moment had a date. The screen flickered. A paused frame from the Nordtech presentation filled the wall. Charlotte, standing beside her, slide. Adrian rising from his seat. Helena spoke calmly. This recording was provided by Nordtech for documentation purposes. Sir Malcolm nodded once. Proceed. The video began. Charlotte's voice echoed softly through the speakers. Projected retention growth stands at 12% under conservative modeling. Adrian's voice followed. Pause. On screen, he stepped beside her. Perhaps we simplify before we lose the room. The footage was clear. No distortion. No dramatic framing. Just reality. The board watched without expression. The video continued. Charlotte joined us recently, Adrian said. She brings strong academic rigor. A faint reaction from one of the Nordtech executives, visible in the background. Helena paused the video. Resume, Sir Malcolm said quietly. The footage advanced, and we temper that with practical experience, Adrian added. The screen captured Charlotte's face, briefly, composed, still. The legal advisor from Nordtech could be seen shifting in her chair. Then the line came. This promotion was about optics. The word landed again. Clear, unambiguous. Helena paused the frame. At the exact moment, the comment left his mouth. The room felt smaller. Adrian's jaw tightened visibly. That statement lacks context, he said. Sir Malcolm did not respond immediately. Helena asked one question. What context alters those words? Silence followed. Charlotte's hands rested calmly on the table. The projector light reflected in Adrian's eyes. This was no longer an interpretation. It was recorded. The screen remained frozen on the paused frame. Adrian, mid-sentence. Charlotte, beside the slide. The client's legal advisor is visible in the corner. Sir Malcolm spoke first. Mr. Volkov, do you deny making this statement? No, Adrian replied. I deny the implication. Helena folded her hands. The implication arises from delivery and setting. Daniel Ward referenced the transcript. External counsel describes the remark as undermining. Adrian leaned forward. This is being framed as intent. It was commentary on external perception. Sir Malcolm's voice remained measured. Intent does not negate impact. Helena dimmed the projector. The room returned to natural light. The chain of evidence confirms consistent language patterns, she said. Public corrections. Exclusion from meetings. Diminishing commentary in group forums. She placed the compliance summary in front of each board member. Documentation aligns with witness testimony and client concern. Sir Malcolm read silently for several moments. Margaret Ellis observed from the side. No one spoke. Charlotte's breathing remained steady. Adrian adjusted his tie, though the room was not warm. The weight in the space had shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, definitive. Sir Malcolm closed the file. "We will deliberate," he said. The board members rose and exited through the side door. Adrian remained seated. Charlotte did not look at him. The projector screen still glowed faintly. The image of his own words lingered in memory. Outside the hearing,
The latest projections show a significant downturn. We must implement cost reductions immediately to stabilize.
outside the hearing room, quiet footsteps echoed. Inside, silence settled. The evidence had spoken. Sir Malcolm returned to his seat. The board will hear final testimony before deliberation, he said. He turned to Charlotte. "Miss Bennet, you may proceed." Charlotte stood slowly. The room felt smaller than it had weeks ago. She did not hold notes. She did not look at the screen. She looked at the board. "My first week," she began, "I presented a regional growth proposal." Adrian shifted slightly in his chair. Charlotte continued. 4 minutes into that presentation, Mr. Volkov interrupted to suggest the material was too dense. He asked whether everyone could follow. She paused. There was laughter, a small movement from one board member as he wrote something down. He restated my analysis as if it required translation, Charlotte said. It did not. Sir Malcolm's eyes remained steady. Charlotte did not raise her voice. I accepted it as an adjustment. New role. New culture. She turned slightly toward Adrian for the first time. But it did not end there. Adrian looked back at her. Expression controlled. Charlotte faced forward again. Emails copied to senior managers. Public corrections in group chats. Exclusion from meetings tied to work. I authored. Her breathing stayed even. Each moment, alone, might appear minor. She met Sir Malcolm's gaze. In sequence, they established a pattern. The room remained silent. No one interrupted her now. Charlotte clasped her hands lightly in front of her. The pattern became clearer during the Nord Tech presentation. She continued. She did not look at the projector. You have seen the footage. Sir Malcolm nodded. Once, in that room, Charlotte said, my work was questioned publicly. Not the data, not the assumptions. My standing, Adrian shifted again. She heard the movement, but did not react. The remark about optics did not exist in isolation, she said. It aligned with prior language that suggested I was present for appearance rather than merit. Helena Strauss remained still, observing. Charlotte's tone did not harden. It is possible to disagree with analysis professionally. It is not appropriate to diminish the analyst. She paused. The impact extended beyond discomfort. Sir Malcolm leaned slightly forward. Explain. Clients observe leadership dynamics, Charlotte replied. When authority undermines a team member publicly, credibility shifts. Daniel Ward noted something quickly. After that session, Charlotte continued, I was removed from a follow-up call regarding the proposal I built. Adrian opened his mouth, then closed it. Charlotte continued calmly. Colleagues hesitated to engage openly in meetings. The tone set at the top-shaped behavior below. Her eyes held steady. This was not a personality conflict. She let that settle. It was a leadership breach. The room absorbed the words without interruption. Maximum tension now rested not in raised voices, but in clarity. Charlotte drew a slow breath before continuing. "I want to be clear," she said. "This complaint is not about disagreement." She looked briefly at Adrian. "I expect a challenge. I expect scrutiny. That is part of the role." Sir Malcolm inclined his head slightly. "What I do not expect," Charlotte continued, "is public commentary that questions why I am in the room." The board remained silent. She returned to the beginning. "The first laugh established something," she said. "It established that my authority could be reduced for effect." Adrian's posture shifted again, less relaxed now. Charlotte's voice remained steady. When similar comments continued, and when emails were framed in a way that invited others to view my work as excessive or misplaced, the message became consistent. She let the words settle before adding the final point, that my credibility required endorsement from him. Daniel Ward glanced at the compliance report in front of him. Charlotte spoke with precision. "Professional impact is not measured only by revenue. It is measured by trust." Sir Malcolm asked one final question. "Did you attempt a resolution privately?" "Yes," Charlotte replied. "I raised concerns directly. I requested professional boundaries." The response? She did not hesitate. "I was told resilience was required at this level." Adrian's jaw tightened again. Charlotte finished the thought calmly. "Resilience does not require humiliation." Silence filled the space. The board members exchanged measured looks. Charlotte returned to her seat without drama. Her testimony was complete, but the outcome was not. "Pause the video right here. What do you think the board will decide? Will performance outweigh conduct? Or will standards matter more? Drop your prediction below before the decision is revealed." Sir Malcolm folded his hands. "Mr. Volkov, you may respond." Adrian stood slowly. "I reject the characterization of humiliation," he said. "My leadership style is direct. High-performance environments require candor." Charlotte did not look at him. Adrian continued, "I never questioned Miss Bennet's competence. I questioned presentation efficiency." Helena glanced at the transcript on the table. "And the remark regarding promotion optics?" she asked. Adrian's tone lowered slightly. "That was a discussion about client perception. It was not a commentary on merit." Sir Malcolm studied him carefully. "Multiple witnesses perceived it otherwise." Adrian spread his hands lightly. "Perception varies. Intent matters." Sir Malcolm responded evenly. "Impact matters as well." The room quieted again. Adrian returned to his seat. Sir Malcolm addressed both parties. "The board will now deliberate on whether managerial conduct violated professional standards and created a hostile work environment. He paused. Before we recess, Ms. Bennett, do you wish to add anything further? Charlotte rose one final time. She met the board's gaze. I did not file this complaint lightly, she said. I filed it because leadership sets precedent. She looked briefly toward Adrian. When authority uses humor to diminish, others learn to accept it. Her voice did not rise. I am not seeking punishment. I am seeking a standard. She sat. Sir Malcolm stood. We will deliberate. The board members exited through the side door. The door closed softly behind them. Silence stretched. If you are watching this moment, what do you believe the outcome should be? Write your prediction before the decision is announced.
Thank you all for being here. The quarterly projections are promising. Let's review the key metrics and discuss any adjustments.
Inside the room, no one spoke. Adrian stared ahead. Charlotte remained still. The verdict now rested beyond both of them. The door reopened. Sir Malcolm entered first, followed by the other board members. No one rushed. No one avoided eye contact. Charlotte remained seated. Adrian straightened slightly. Sir Malcolm stood at the head of the table. The board has concluded its deliberation, he said. His tone carried no emotion. Based on documented evidence, corroborated testimony, and client correspondence, we find that managerial conduct violated Section 4 of the Code of Professional Standards. Adrian's expression held for a fraction of a second. They shifted. Sir Malcolm continued. The language used during external and internal meetings created a hostile work environment and undermined professional standing. Silence pressed against the room. The board, therefore, terminates Mr. Adrian Volkoff's employment effective immediately. The words settled heavily. Adrian blinked once. I assume this is negotiable, he said quietly. It is final, Sir Malcolm replied. Helena Strauss slid a formal document across the table. Termination is justified under leadership breach and conduct violation, she said. Severance terms are outlined in the attached agreement. Adrian did not reach for the document immediately. He looked at Charlotte. She met his gaze steadily. No triumph, no satisfaction, only stillness. Sir Malcolm added one final sentence. The company will implement mandatory leadership training across all divisions. Adrian finally picked up the paper. The hearing was over. Adrian stood slowly. For the first time since the process began, his voice carried uncertainty. This decision overlooks contribution, he said. Revenue growth, client acquisition. Sir Malcolm did not waver. Contribution does not excuse conduct. Helena remained seated, composed. Documentation reflects a consistent pattern, she said. The board's responsibility extends beyond profit. Adrian exhaled sharply. This is about perception. It is about impact, Sir Malcolm corrected. Margaret Ellis stepped forward. Your access will be deactivated within the hour, she said. IT will coordinate transition. The procedural tone left no room for argument. Adrian glanced once more toward Charlotte. "You could have handled this differently," he said quietly. Charlotte answered without hesitation. "Could you?" Silence followed. He gathered his folder, the award plaque, still resting somewhere on his office shelf. The door opened again. Not for deliberation, for departure. Outside, word began moving through corridors before any official memo was sent. Charlotte remained seated until the room emptied. When she finally stood, she did so without rush. The tension that had filled weeks now released gradually. Not with celebration, with clarity. Through the glass wall, she saw Adrian walking toward his office, shoulders squared, expression restrained. The machinery of the company did not pause. But something fundamental had shifted. At 3:14 p.m., the email arrived. Subject: Leadership Update. Charlotte saw it appear in her inbox, along with every employee in the division. She opened it, effective immediately. Adrian Volkov has concluded his role with the company. The board reaffirms its commitment to professional standards and respectful leadership. Brief, direct, no detail. Across the office floor, screens lit up simultaneously. Conversations hushed. Adrian's office door remained closed for several minutes. Then it opened. An IT representative stepped inside. A few moments later, a facilities manager followed. Charlotte watched without staring. Adrian emerged, carrying a slim leather bag. No speech, no farewell address. He paused near the exit briefly, as if considering whether to turn back. He did not. The lift doors closed behind him. Inside his office, the plaque from the summit was removed from the shelf and placed carefully into a box. His name would remain on performance reports, but not on the organizational chart. Helena Strauss sent a final compliance note to the board. Recommendation: implement mandatory leadership, conduct training across departments. Sir Malcolm approved it within the hour. The reform would begin next quarter, not as a response to scandal, as a reinforcement of standard. Charlotte closed the memo slowly. Her inbox remained active. Projects continued. Deadlines still existed. Work had not stopped. It had adjusted. The office felt different the next morning. Not lighter, quieter. Charlotte arrived at her desk, as she always had. She logged in, reviewed her schedule, opened the Baltic expansion file. No ceremony marked the change. Ethan Clark walked past her desk and paused. He did not speak. He simply gave a small nod. She returned it. Across the floor, a senior manager approached. "We'll need your input on the regional rollout," he said. "You'll be leading the next client session." There was no hesitation in his tone, no suggestion of translation. "Understood," Charlotte replied. She gathered her notes. Later that afternoon, she stepped outside the building for a brief walk. The air felt cooler than usual. Traffic moved steadily along the river. She stood there for a moment, not replaying events, not anticipating reaction, just present. This was not a victory. It was an alignment. Inside the company, policy updates were already being drafted. Mandatory leadership workshops, clearer communication standards, board oversight reinforced. Consequences had not been theatrical. They had been procedural. Charlotte returned to her desk. Her screen reflected her steady expression. If this story speaks to you, share it with someone who believes respect at work is not optional. Subscribe and like for more real accountability stories.